In this video, I'm going to be talking about some of the equipment that I bring on my integrated pest management site evaluations, which, because of the current situation, is not something I've been doing as much as I used to. And I thought it would be a good time to reassess and consider some of the equipment that I utilize, where I could upgrade, where I maybe can downgrade and still have the same level of effectiveness, and that sort of a thing. So, in addition to the sort of equipment that I keep on my person, I also have two articles of clothing that I consider to be like work clothing. The first one that I've been using since about November of 2019 is the Vertex Fusion Stretch Tactical Pants. There are a couple of things that were attractive to me about these pants. The particular one that I focused on the most, actually, was that they have articulated knees. So you can see in the pants that they have an articulation point between the thigh and the foot, or the foreleg rather. And this articulation point makes kneeling and bending and twisting around this part of the body, the knee, particularly easy, which is very nice in sort of a field situation. Oftentimes, when I'm working with plants or I'm out in the field and I'm looking at a property area, I might have to bend over or squat or kneel in some awkward position to get a look at something, maybe an interesting spider or a moth or some sort of insect or possibly even a plant that's in a crook or a crevice or something like this. In a forested area, it's very useful for these sorts of things as well. There are a lot of different nooks and crannies where organisms might be that I'd like to take a look. These pair of pants are 65% polyester and 35% cotton. 23% of the polyester is VaporCore 37.5 fabric technology, which maintains an optimal temperature for the person who is wearing the pants. Too high and it cools down, too low and it warms up. In my experience, they've been pretty nice to have in a work situation, especially hot and humid greenhouses or weather conditions in the arid deserts and high deserts of California, Nevada, and other parts of the continental United States. There are 14 pockets reinforced with Cordura technology, which is usually nylon, and these reinforcements are an incredible buttress. These pants have 14 pockets, all of which have been These pants have 14 pockets reinforced with Cordura technology, which is typically nylon. And these reinforced buttresses offer a great bit of support, especially for my Kershaw Leek Ken Onion knife that I often carry around with me as a primary knife to use kind of as a tool depending on what I'm trying to use it for. But it's a great knife to have on my person, but the clip is particularly tight. And I like it this way, and I like that the reinforced pockets are not damaged by my constant donning and doffing of the component of this knife. These pants are also waterproofed and they bead up and deflect water particularly well. I've even had water spilled on me from a pipe leak that kept me completely dry, and I was particularly impressed. The knife that I like to use the most is the Kershaw Leek, which is a Ken Onion model. It comes in Sandvik 14C28N stainless steel, which is a martensitic stainless chromium steel. It has high hardness, corrosion resistance, and good edge performance. I particularly like this, and I've had this model for about 15 years, and I've had the same knife ever since I first bought it. In fact, there was a time where I lost this knife. I've actually lost this knife a few times, but either somebody found it and returned it to me, or I have found it somewhere in my rooms or in my car or something like this because I carry it around so often. And even when I thought that I had misplaced this for too long, in fact, I had lost this for over a year at one point, though it was still in my ownership at the time. I went out and bought another of the same model, this time without the serrations. And I found that when I had the other one, the older one, this one, it was just easiest to give it to a friend of mine who is also, as far as I've known, had it for since I've given it to them, so probably about 5 or 6 years. It's a great knife to use for all manner of things. I have replaced and changed the clip so that instead of being on this side here, it is on the back here, which allows me to pull it out of the pocket and deploy it quickly, which is much less arduous. And you can see here that it uses a middle switch to bend the knife back into place. It also has a lock at the end, which you can use to keep it from opening. One of the reasons why I've changed the orientation on my knife clip is for quick deployment. See, normally the knife is not like this, but I can take it out and immediately deploy it because of the way that the clip has the blade moving, or the head of the blade rather, downwards. If this clip was the other way around and it went in like this, I would have to take it out and I couldn't deploy it as quickly with my index finger. I'd have to flip it around and do that. I simply have to take it out of my pocket and then flip it like that. So that's one reason why I do that. It's just a little bit nicer, more fluid movement. It's useful, or rather more useful as a tool. The Vertex Stretch Fusion pants have 14 pockets, but 2 thigh pockets are particularly large. There's actually 2 on each side. There's a large vertical pocket or horizontal, depending on how you are sitting or standing, and a side zipper pocket as well, which allows you to hold many things, which is quite a boon. To give you an example of some of the things that I bring out, I have a container here. I bought these from the Container Store locally, and I like to use various sizes. There is one size that is a quarter of this size, or a half of this size, and also double the size exactly. So I can actually fit them inside of each other, making them very easy to store and contain. What I contain inside these containers is typically samples. Oftentimes I like to have large ones for insects and arthropods that I may come into contact with. That can be a good learning example, or they can be great to carry back to a camp to study further and then be able to release afterwards, assuming they aren't pests themselves. In addition, I also keep sometimes my business card holder. This is definitely the holder that I've had for a long time. You can see that it is damaged in several places. It's been scratched. It's been through about 10 years of service, and it has served me quite well. These are my business cards, and the card holder itself is still in great repair despite everything that has happened to it. So I will probably continue to use this card holder. The other thing that I use in these pockets are this Rite in Rain notebook. This notebook is particularly hydrophobic, so hydrophobic in fact that I can scoop water out of a bucket or a stream, even a dirty one, and you can cup the water in the pages. And if you really want to, you can use it as a makeshift spoon even, although I don't really recommend it. Unfortunately, for those who aren't aware, you also have to use one of these Rite in Rain all-weather pens. If you do not use these pens with the paper, the ink will wash off, so it's important to note this when choosing this notebook. I have liked it quite a bit. It's incredibly durable. There's many pages. I've used this notebook for about 7 months, or actually 9 months now, and it is quite useful. And I would highly recommend this combination for anyone who wants to be prepared for any weather situation. just wanted to point out that despite using these pants in many rugged terrain scenarios, the oaky forest of the Northern California mountains, the scraggy chaparral high deserts of Middle California and Southern California, the low deserts of Nevada, as well as snowy terrains in Michigan and subtropical and tropical Florida panhandle environments, as well as greenhouses. I haven't really sustained very many um, sites of damage on the pants, except for this one area right here, which appears to be, and I think if I remember correctly, I can actually recount how this injury happened. This was due to a particularly sharp, very, very sharp um, piece of metal actually getting lodged into the pant leg, and I remember catching it on a greenhouse piece of equipment. I believe it was a rebar um, structure of some kind. But besides that injury, there really isn't very much in the way of injury here, although there is some discoloration on the pockets, but that just makes it look worn in and used, which I think is a great marker of experience. Sometimes in my other pockets, I like to put in these devices. For example, we have a Dinolite snake camera, which I often carry with the cell phone attachment. This is a USB-C attachment at the end here, which marries to a USB connector, which you can see here. So I usually keep it on me so that I can use it with my Samsung Galaxy S9 phone, which I often have with me as well as part of my EDC. This is like the first or maybe second Dinolite model that is available on their website. It captures pretty good video. It's definitely useful in applications where something is very small, obscure, and cryptic, and I can't quite tell what it is. Oftentimes I can eyeball a lot of different macroarthropods and even some microarthropods and kind of know what they are, especially with context and working with a cultivator that I am. In some cases, however, a material or a structure on a plant or somewhere else might be a little bit too hard to identify with my own naked eyes, and I'd like to get a better look at them. This is also useful if an organism is recognizable but acting in a weird way, or is walking in an odd gait, and I can identify why that might be. There have been cases where it's been useful for identifying and showing the differences between various arthropods, especially in the soil, like springtails and predatory mites and oribitid mites and spider mites, although not in the soil. And being able to illustrate this to somebody who is less familiar is a particularly helpful capacity to have, and the Dinolite allows for this very easily. I do keep it in the pocket, even though it has all of these cables, and it seems to work quite well. I often also like to keep a flash drive with me of some kind, just in case there is some information or media that needs to be transferred. Always useful. And in addition to all of this, I also keep a USB-C charging cable for my phone. Makes sense, right? So that I can keep my phone charged, which also allows me to make use of the camera. I also have here a Nitecore Tiki 300 lumen UV and CRI model, which I bought about 4 months ago. It is quite useful. I quite like this model. It has a very strong light at its maximum level. One of the other benefits of this light is that it has a auxiliary LED, which is actually very, very bright. Low heat, which is always good for these sort of pocket flashlights. The main reason why I chose this particular flashlight is that it has great reviews on its light power. It actually seems to be at least close to 300 lumens as reported. Sometimes this is not actually the case when being marketed as such. This emergency or auxiliary LED is great because it allows me to have a light that is low heat, high power, that I can easily click on and not use up a ton of the internal battery, which is charged with a USB charging port. The second major article of clothing that I have is a Särmä Windproof Anorak, which is made by Varsteleka, which is a Finnish company. Särmä means edge in Finnish, and the Anorak is a particular kind of sort of jacket. There are two things that I like about this jacket. The first thing that I like about it is the large kangaroo pocket at the very front of the jacket, which can be zipped horizontally, and there's a large pocket space. It folds out somewhat and is very great for keeping all kinds of items inside and easily accessible. The other aspect that I quite like is that it's easy to don and doff because it has these zippers on the sides. These side zippers allow for the jacket to be very cool if I want it to be, or warmer if I need it to be, and windproof to that end. I'm also a big fan of the shoulder pocket here. You can see that I have outfitted it with my Haley Strategic Dragonfly patch and Zenthanol tab, so you know it's me when I go to visit you. I have in here two hemp-derived plastic tubes, which I like to use to collect, just like my containers, various things. This is the 110 model Särmä hemp tube by Särmä Packaging. It is 100% hemp-derived plastic, number 7 recyclable according to their information. And the really cool thing about them is that they have a simple sort of locking mechanism where the tube is locked if this notch is in the right or the left position, but if it is moved into the center, it can be popped off rather well. Even I was able to do it one-handed with pretty easy ability. They are nice for holding various objects. Of course, being that it's a hemp project, a lot of people like to use it for joints and that sort of a thing. Here you can see that it is in fact recyclable, and I'm a very big fan of these kinds of materials, so I like to utilize and represent them whenever possible. Much like the Vertex Fusion Stretch Tactical Pants, the Särmä Windproof Anorak is 65% polyester and 35% cotton. It also has a polyurethane coating. It's very common for me to take the hood of this jacket here. As you can see, it has a pretty large collection of buttons, but it also has a zip here. This allows the hood to be quite impervious to wind, like it is advertised, but often in the heat I like to keep it open as a flap and then kind of let this be sort of a cool headspace for me. An alternative as well, when it is colder, is that I can take the hood and move it down and kind of have sort of a large neck wind brace so I can break the wind against my neck and head a little bit easier while still allowing me to see outside of it. It can also look a little bit odd to people if I'm walking up towards them with half of my body covered, particularly my face, with just my eyes peeking out over the edge. Several people in the comments, when I made an Instagram post about these, um, rightly so, speculated that I would look kind of odd, especially when I have my watch repair glasses, which I also keep on me and use quite a bit. These are actually probably my most iconic pieces of equipment for everyone who are asking, because I often get these questions. They're pretty inexpensive, and I actually like that because they have various lenses which I can pop off and pop on and replace at different uh, levels of magnification from 10 to 25. These lights work quite well. They're actually very powerful for their size, and I get to have two of them. And they're also articulated, so I can move the light in and out, which has actually been much more useful than I expected it to be. I like to use this with the band. They do come with a detachable connector, which you can also have for traditional glasses connections. But I don't like these to rest on my ears because if I move my head down, they will often fall off, especially in hot environments that are conducive to sweat. I like to have a headband because it keeps everything nice and fluid. One of the nice things about this jacket and watch repair glass combination is that it's actually a large enough hood that it can accommodate the glasses if I'm outside and I'm looking at things and I don't want my glasses to get rained on. This hood is tall enough and wide enough that it can actually accommodate, like I said, these lenses. If I take it off like this, I can still have kind of a windbreak like I was describing earlier, and these watch repair glasses still stay on my head quite well. You can see that it also has Velcro on the uh, terminal ends of the sleeves, which allow you to keep things either quite loose, which is nice when it's very hot, or keep things quite tight when it's pretty warm and windy so that you don't lose heat or that sort of a thing. In addition to all of this, I also have boots as well, which I have iron laces laced into, which has a wire that acts as the, I think, the mantle of the cord and keeps them incredibly tough so that if I do go over um, rough terrain or like scrape against a rock or sharp metal, which does happen more often than you think, and other hard materials, the laces won't fray and they won't cause problems and fail on me when I need them the most to keep myself protected, especially with these boots. Um, these boots are quite nice. They do have a zipper at the side, which I can use to easily take them on and take them off. They have also been used for, I would say, about 8 months at this point. And I don't know if it's possible to see this on the camera, but it is in some cases sort of starting to peel because of the wear and tear and the rough conditions that I was talking about, oftentimes with granite rock and also just simply in greenhouse environments where metal and cement and uh, wood, all kinds of things really, just any sort of solid object. I don't have to worry about these boots breaking on me, but they do take the damage and they do show it, which is totally fine. I'm not expecting them to be impervious to any and all damage. But these boots are also special because they have a waterproof gusseting, which is right here. And I have used these boots in cases where I am in ankle deep water, or ankle deep water here, or even a little bit further, and the entire boot, zipper and all, keeps myself totally dry. Which is really great to have. You can also see how what I was talking about earlier, these pants are articulated at the knees. So you can see here, here's one part of the articulation, here's the other part. These seams here are articulation points, and so it makes my leg bend quite easily. There's no problem here, there's no pressure, whereas jeans or some other sort of pair of pants will have that problem as well. So yeah, this hood is nice. I can unzip it if I want to, make things a little bit more breathable. I also, if you aren't noticing, I also have the ability to zip this jacket up at the side, like that. But I can also unzip it all the way up to here, and in fact I can do it from both directions, which is really nice. It gives me a lot of options when I'm trying to use the jacket in particular environments. When I was in Florida recently, it was useful because it would start raining and stop raining very often. And although it was very hot and muggy, I did find that having this jacket was very nice. And just in case anyone is curious, these are Danner's Men's Kinetic 8-inch side zip GTX Work Boot in black, and this is a 10.5 size, and it fits me quite well. I am usually a 10.5 American size, and it typically works quite well for me, so I'm pretty happy with it. I don't find that I have problems with, and really never did have problems with, an extreme amount of blistering or even having hot spots occur on my ankles, which is where I typically get them, at the back of my ankle most primarily. I did get a few hot spots on the pads of my feet, at the front, sort of instep, as well as a little bit at the back. But primarily it was here, and that was when I first had them, and I hadn't broken them in quite yet. But suffice it to say, I like these watch repair glasses. I like this jacket quite a bit. I find that it's really easy to just grab something from the pocket here, zip it back up. I can zip up my side all the way up to my arms, which keeps me cool. You'll notice that perhaps even if it might be a little bit aesthetic, it is black. It's all black. Even my watch repair glasses are black. And what do we know about black clothing? Well, it soaks up heat quite a bit, so keeping myself cool is a must, most certainly. So hopefully this short video about some of the equipment that I keep on myself when I travel and do site evaluations will better inform people who are looking to advance and update their integrated pest management strategies. I am something of a minimalist when it comes to my equipment that I keep on my person. I usually also carry with me other sorts of equipment, including my laptop and pens and labels and various other sampling containers. I sometimes bring ethanol, but I don't always, for keeping arthropods and other sorts of things in a sample. Sometimes I procure on site that sort of supply depending on what I'm doing. Sometimes it's not even relevant, so I don't always keep it on me, but these sorts of small pieces of technology, like the hemp tubes, the containers, the Dinolite, the flash drive that I have right here, including this light, which I also keep on my keys for that matter. It's just very lightweight, very durable, and very nice for the size and the power that you get out of it. So all in all, these pieces of technology, including these 3 articles of clothing, including the boot, they do me quite well, and I might be changing some of these up in the near future. I would be interested in anyone's input on various other articles of clothing that work in various terrains and environments. This is not going to be helpful for every single environment, but I don't see myself going into the frigid Arctic anytime soon or anything like that, which maybe is the reason why I shouldn't get something quite like the Anorak. But I like it. I'm able to keep cool in it for the most part. I don't use it as frequently in hot and humid conditions that are drier, kind of like the Southern California area where I come from. But when I go out to places that actually have seasons, it's actually kind of nice to have. Anyways, that's enough rambling from me. Let me know what you think in the comments, or give me a message on Zenthanol at YouTube or Sync Angel at Instagram. Yeah, I'm interested in your input, and let me know if you want any more information about these pieces of technology. In the description I will have their information for you to take a look at.